You got the best, the hottest band in the world, Kiss!
Let's hear your message, quote unquote. What are you trying to tell my 14-year-old daughter?
Well, if she was a little bit older, I'd tell her to come to my hotel room.
So in part one, we talked about how Kiss was doing their classic hard rock era that we all know and love. But to all you metalheads that are still salty, and we're not talking about death metal and traditional metal and stuff, you might actually be happy with this part, because at the beginning of part 2 here, we're going to be diving into heavy metal Kiss. That is right, you heard correctly. Kiss doing heavy fucking metal.
This is our 17th record, and we've done everything since we've begun, from ballads with violins to the loudest and the meanest rock and roll. And now that we've gotten a concept record out of our creative minds, this was our last record, The Elder, now it's time to get serious about what we've always done, which is play the meanest and the loudest, and hopefully put on the best show in the world.
Now, although Ace pretty much wanted to leave at this point, he was kind of out of the band. They had him stay for a little bit for like publicity services. They had him on the I Love It Loud music video, and they had him on the cover for Creatures of the Night. But ultimately, the lead guitar work on Creatures of the Night was done by other people. Most notably, a man that would join this band officially on the tour for the album, known as Vinnie Vincent.
I'm pinching his butt.
Do you know how hard it is to keep a straight face while someone's pinching your butt?
You know how hard it is? It's my job. It's my job.
In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
Kind of officially joined the band because he never signed his contract, which would apparently eventually lead to him getting kicked out. But there's so many crazy stories in the world of Kiss, many different reasons for why things happened. Who the fuck knows? But what we know is that Vinnie Vincent was behind the curtain with Creatures of the Night. Now, I can accept Ace Frehley in the cover of Creatures of the Night. It makes sense. They're trying to sort of let him go. Maybe they're going to try to gain more commercial appeal for doing a heavier album by saying, hey, Ace is still here. They don't want to, scare fans away, but no matter what, this album didn't sell too well, which we'll get to that in a second. What's even weirder is that they re-released this album a couple years later with, you'd think they'd put Vinnie Vincent on the cover, a picture of that era of the band, but they had the era with Bruce Kulick, which is really bizarre, without makeup, which they were still in makeup in this time. Now, even though this album is nowadays held to be one of the greatest Kiss albums ever because of how heavy and badass it was a return to form, but even pushing the boundaries further for them being a heavy metal album, everyone actually overlooked this album. They were still selling well in like South America and stuff like that. It was one of their lowest selling albums ever. They tried promoting it, they did music videos, no one gave a shit. But nowadays we do give a shit, and Creatures of the Night is one hell of a fucking album from start to finish. Creatures of the Night, one of the most iconic songs ever. The lead guitar work on it, although not Vinnie Vincent, is fantastic soloing, and the riffs and the vocals, and goddamn the vocals. Paul Stanley is fantastic as a metal vocalist. He really is. He does the high screams and everything. Everyone knows and loves this song, and the drumming sounds thunderous. Some of the most awesome drum tones I've ever fucking heard. They sound like cannons. And you have some great Gene songs on your Saint and Sinner. Great riffs on that. You also have I Love It Loud, which is a classic song from now. It's just a kind of slow, more rockin' song. Not necessarily as metal, but it's more like a stadium rock anthem type of thing going on. Same thing with the song Rock and Roll Hell. And you also have really amazing songs towards the end that are Gene Simmons songs. You have Killer, which has a ridiculous sadistic riff to it. And my favorite Gene song from this album, maybe even my favorite song from the album, a song that they'd play all the time, and a song that Gene from this point on for a good long while would blow fire to instead of Firehouse. We have War Machine.
Watch out, 'cause I'm a war machine. Better watch out, 'cause I'm a war machine. Yeah.
But Paul Stanley matches him in awesomeness on all of his songs too. Like I said, you have Creatures of the Night, which he sings. You have Keep Me Comin'. Even though his vocals used to really annoy me on it, I actually came around to the song and basically kept me coming. I like the song now. And I also really love the song Danger. That might be my favorite Paul Stanley song on the album because it has such a fantastic build-up to the chorus, and the chorus is such an amazing payoff.
Danger, danger, give me danger, danger, give me danger for pleasure and pain, boiling the blood in my veins.
There's one ballad on here that is probably the greatest Paul Stanley ballad of all time. The guitar work on it's fantastic, and it has writing credits from the ridiculous shredder, Vinnie Vincent. And Paul is probably the best part of it with his amazing vocals.
People tell me I should win at any cost, but now I see as the smoke clears away, the battle has been lost.
Despite everyone ignoring the album at the time, this is arguably my favorite Kiss album, but there's just so many good Kiss albums. But what I can tell you is that all the albums we're going to discuss in this half of the discography, part 2, easily the best album. What's weird though is even during the tour, they were still trying to make it sound like Ace was in the band. They would say he would get in a car crash or something on like radio stations and stuff before a show, and we have a last minute guest from a guy by the name of Vinnie Vincent and whatnot, but it was pretty much Vinnie Vincent was in the band and not Ace anymore. And Vinnie Vincent actually got his own makeup, some weird key looking thing on his head, but it was the last unique original makeup that they would do before reverting to their old shit later down the road. But instead of innovating the makeup any further, they actually decided to get rid of it because there was low interest in the band at the time. They needed to do something, so they did something drastic.
Do you ever yearn for the day when you just, scrub off the makeup and you get up there as a band without
I don't
the
think
facade?
so. I mean, why? You can almost ask the same thing of Superman. Why doesn't he take off that outfit and just sort of come out and do the things? Because it wouldn't be Superman.
Why now are you deciding to...
I think it's just time. There's really no other reason. This is our 18th record, 10 years on. We feel great, and it's just time.
And it actually ended up working. They thought we needed to take off the makeup and write a kick-ass, fantastically heavy album that also has a lot of great commercial rock songs on it. And you know what? It worked. A lot of people like to say that Vinnie Vincent saved Kiss. In some ways he did, but you also have to take into account it was two big things that saved Kiss. It was the fact they took off the makeup and increased interest in the band, again, by showing their identities. And it was by Vinnie Vincent's awesome songwriting, because he pretty much co-wrote almost every single song on the next album. Look it up.
Do I have any hobbies? I take pictures of Gene and his boyfriends.
Jeez. Is there anything that you could say to, or give advice to young musicians? Like right now,
Yes.
okay?
Good. Fuck a lot of women. Fuck the guitar. Go for that puss.
So look it up. A lot of people really hate it and say this is the beginning of the decline for Kiss, but a lot of people also really love it and say this is another classic from the 80s from Kiss. And you know what? Where I stand is, sorry to tell you guys this, but I love it. I fucking love Lick It Up. I think it's awesome, and in fact, I used to like it a little bit more than Creatures of the Night. Now I don't. Now I realize that that's wrong, but now I still realize that Lick It Up is an awesome album. Right off the bat, Exciter, one of my favorite Kiss songs ever. So badass. The riffs are fucking so awesomely traditional heavy metal. It is heavy metal at its core. And then you have Not for the Innocent, a Gene song that sounds like God of Thunder or something. It's almost like a doom metal song. Evil as fuck. But then you have, of course, the radio rock song that everyone hates for some reason. Look it up. Because they think Paul Stanley sounds annoying on it, and I do gotta say the music video is pretty cringy, but otherwise it's a pretty fucking kick-ass song. Then you have more ripping and tearing on Young and Wasted, a song that has Gene on vocals. It's sleazy, it's kick-ass, it's fast. Gimme More is basically Young and Wasted but with Paul on vocals. Both songs are fantastic, and what's interesting about the song Young and Wasted is that whenever they play it live, they always had Eric Carr sing it, which was awesome. I wish they recorded it with Eric Carr on vocals. All Hell's Breaking Loose is an interesting song because it has a bit of rap metal in there. Yeah, everyone cites Anthrax and whatnot for starting rap metal. Someone else probably did it before Kiss even, but Kiss did have it way before Anthrax. It kind of has a bit of a rap to it.
Street hustler comes up to me one day and I'm walking down the street minding my own business. Now he looks me up and he looks me down and he says, hey man, what be this and what be that? And why you gotta look like that? Well, I just looked at him, I kind of laughed. I said, hey man, I am cool, I am the breed.
Then you have basically a retread of I Still Love You, but it's still damn good. 1,000,000 to 1, a fantastic ballad. Then you get towards the end of the album and you have some Gene songs, like literally 3 Gene songs in a row. Fits Like a Glove, which I kind of don't like that one. I know it's classic. I know they played it all the fucking time. And I know it's a fun, ripping song and whatnot, but it makes me cringe. It's just a chorus. I just can't stand his vocals on it. But then Dance All Over Your Face, another Gene song that's slow and crunchy. I actually can get behind that shit. I especially love On the 8th Day.
Years after, some of the people who were in record companies who told us that we shouldn't be wearing makeup or wearing these clothes are now very much in pursuit of bands that sort of wear those kinds of clothes and wear makeup. So we have been vindicated.
Now I gotta say though, Animalize is, of all the 80s Kiss albums that are metal, probably the weakest one. But what makes the album so good is Mark St. John's ridiculous guitar playing, especially on all the fast songs. I've Had Enough, Into the Fire, which is like Creatures of the Night and Exciter, but even more intense, with guitar shredding all over the goddamn place. The most awesome song from Kiss in the 80s, by far. And Burn Bitch Burn, another ridiculously shreddy, kick-ass song. Under the Gun, god damn! They're on fire. Speaking of being on fire, Heaven's on Fire, a classic song from this album. Paul Stanley's singing fantastically, and it's a hit, a smash hit.
Feel my heat, take it to higher, burn with me, heaven's on fire, paint the sky with desire, angel fly, heaven's on fire.
But to all you people that still think Paul Stanley sounds amazing nowadays and bury your head in the sand every time his voice just completely craps out on every song, going like, nah, 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 La la la, Kiss can never do any wrong. La la la. Here's a little taste of what he does with this song nowadays. You tell me if this sounds good. Oh, buddy, he's old. You have to go easy on him because he's old. Then don't sing the song, or sing it in a lower voice. You could still sing the same thing, but in a lower pitch, and it still sounds fine. But he's still idiotically trying to hit those notes that he can't hit, and you know he can't hit. Go ahead and dislike it and bitch all you fucking want that I'm being disrespectful or whatnot. I am not going to fucking pander and lie to you. That's the fucking truth. Accept it. Now, the sad thing about this album, which to a lot of people is the reason why this album isn't as good, but not to me. I'll explain in a second why, but Gene Simmons was actually more so focused on trying to be a movie star, you know, trying to be in movies, trying to have an acting career, trying to do stuff outside of Kiss, because maybe he saw Kiss kind of as a sinking ship, or now a little bit of a platform to get off into other stuff, because they were selling a bit better than they were with like Creatures of the Night, but maybe he thought this ship was going to stop sailing soon. But his acting career was short-lived and was in a bunch of really fucking horrible movies.
I'm outside of Fox Cinema.
But he did actually have, in my opinion, some pretty underrated kick-ass songs in this album. Everyone says that his songs are the worst on here. But although Murder in High Heels is total filler, I actually can dig that shit. While the City Sleeps is badass. I love that song. And then I love the slow, bluesy sleaziness of Lonely is the Hunter.
Lonely is the hunter. You're my one and only. And lonely is the hunter.
But you can tell that Gene needs to be more involved on this album because Paul Stanley does a bulk of the vocals. Thrills in the Night kind of bores me. Sorry. I know it's a good song though, and I know I'm wrong on that. But Get All You Can Take, it's like, musically it's a good song. It's catchy and the riffs are cool. But fuck, Paul's voice irritates me to no end on this song. It's way too high pitched and it's fucking grating.
Get down, fall around. If you gotta have a chance to take it, yeah, stand your ground. You gotta bend the fence to make it.
Because Gene was doing his acting career at this time and trying to get off of the Kiss ship, there was starting to be a rift in the band. I don't know if that's what caused the rift or maybe it was a result of the rift. But him and Paul were getting so pissed at each other. They weren't even on speaking terms. They were in completely opposite parts of the city in different studios. And everyone in the band had to run back and fucking forth with writing songs and recording them with their ass. And then Eric Carr was getting so annoyed by both of their shit that he just recorded all the shit as quickly as possible and then ran away to the Caribbean. But although Mark was doing such an awesome job, he was actually having issues. He was having terrible problems with arthritis at the time.
Mark did the album,
the Animalize album.
Did Animalize, and then fell ill. He, his hand blew up to something the size of a dirigible, I guess. I mean, it was amazing to see a hand that big and it wouldn't move. And finally they figured out he had a rare disease called Reiter syndrome, which comes and goes, and there's really no guarantee that it doesn't come back. And initially when we went to Europe, we took Bruce as a stand-in, thinking that Mark would join us in about 3 weeks or whatever. Yeah. And it didn't quite happen. What happened was he was ill for 4 months, and we didn't know when he was going to get better. Oh. And Bruce just kept getting better and better. And it really wouldn't have been fair to bring Mark in at the audience's expense and try to break him in. Yeah. He did do 2 shows with us, but 2 half shows, he just couldn't do it.
So they had to get a guy by the name of Bruce Kulick, who's the brother of Bob Kulick that was, you know, working with the band in the early days for a couple things, a good friend of theirs. So they got Bruce from this point on as kind of a permanent member.
Bruce was always a full member. He just had to go through the field of battle, you know? Had to go through the mine course, the gauntlet.
The gas.
The gas.
The bad jokes. Plenty of all that.
He had to, you know, before actually knowing that he was a full-time member of KISS, he had to actually go through and fight in the trenches and actually be there. His first experience, being in Kiss was right out on tour.
Yeah?
Gene Simmons. Yes, sir. What was it like?
Huh? So, how do you feel? Well, I ran the gauntlet and I got lost in the trenches.
It's crazy they were able to tape up all the leaks on this album. Although everyone hates it, I still think it rules for what it is. It's surprising that the ship has not completely collapsed on this one. Everyone hated each other, yet they still kept chugging along with a new guitarist, Bruce Kulick, that does maybe not as great of a job as Vinny or Mark, but he still is a damn good shredder. So when they went in to do a new album, one that would be even more consistent, concise than the last one, almost as like an apology to a lot of people that hate that album. I don't. But this one I will agree is much better. But there's still a giant rift forming, not only with Paul and Gene, but with Paul and Eric, Bruce. Everyone just fucking was getting pissed at Paul. And although everyone is an asshole in Kiss pretty much, I gotta say, I don't see anything that shows Eric Carr as being an asshole, so I kind of side with him whatever he says, and it seemed like Eric Carr was even thinking like Paul is being such a massive cunt. Eric even started calling Ace Frehley during this era a lot, you know, trying to rekindle their friendship for the early days, and Paul found out about it and he tried to put an end to it because he's a fucking dictator, basically. I mean, let's be honest here. You could have whatever made-up image of Paul Stanley in your head, but everyone knows when someone says everyone around them is an asshole, 100% of the time that means that that person saying that is an asshole. And Paul Stanley, in his book, bashes every fucking one, but everyone has nice things to say about each other except for Paul Stanley, pretty much. Alright, so let's talk about the next one. One of my favorites from the 80s, Asylum.
Little girl, what would you like for Christmas? Hmm? Well, you don't have to wait for Christmas for that. Excuse us.
So although Gene was doing all these movies and shit at the time, more than ever during this era, was pretty much almost out of the band, he still delivered some bad ass songs. Holy shit. Any way you slice it, rules. Secretly Cruel is one of my favorite slow, crunchy, sleazy Kiss songs ever. And then maybe my favorite song off the album, Love's a Deadly Weapon. What a badass riff. But you also have other really good metal songs like King of the Mountain, the opener, fucking rules. It's like Paul is declaring in this anthemic way in the chorus that he is the king of the mountain. He's the king of the douchebags. Then you have I Am Alive, which is right before Love's a Deadly Weapon, which is probably my second favorite song on the album, or maybe even my favorite. It is a fast speed metal ripping song. There was also some really big hits that Paul did on this album. Who Wants to Be Lonely, which had a music video. The power ballad known as Tears Are Falling. And the one song on the album that I can't get behind. I mean, I like it ironically because it's funny and stupid. And it's kind of catchy, but man, is it fucking stupid. All Night. It really, really makes the rest of this album kind of look stupid. Where the rest of it's pretty metal and kick ass. Where this one's really fucking sleazy and stupid. Did not belong on the album. Cut it out. So the riff's just growing even bigger coming on at the next album. You have Eric Carr and Paul become more distant, and Paul was convinced without evidence that Eric was somehow on coke at the time. But the rift between Paul and Gene was actually kind of closing up a little bit, though. You have Gene coming back a tiny bit on this album, doing more songs than he was doing before, but Paul is ultimately still kind of being the driver of this album, known as Crazy Nights. The album that is an AOR-tinged one that everyone hates, everyone thinks is like the worst Kiss album. What do I think about it?
Let's find out.
Crazy Nights. Oh my god. I love Crazy Nights. I know everyone's like, you're fucking gay. You know what? It's true. I'm coming out of the closet in a way where it's like, you know, I know this album is not good because it is extremely AOR-tinged and very different for Kiss, but in a way, not that different for Kiss. They've always been kind of commercial. So it's not that odd for me, but the reason why I like it so much is I actually really like AOR music, and it's not like it's offensively bad or there's just tons of filler. It's more so where the whole album has tons of synths and stuff like that, and the choruses are very melodic. I mean, you do have a few really cringy dog shit songs on here, like Bang Bang You, which is just indefensible. And you have Crazy Crazy Nights, which is kind of cringy. Some of those songs in here are a little iffy. But I'll be honest with you, some of these aren't that bad if you like AOR music. My Way is really catchy. Reason to Live is very catchy, even though it looks like Gene Simmons wants to fuck you in the music video. But there are a few really rockin' ones on here, When Your Walls Come Down. You have No No No, which the intro has guitar shredding that sounds identical to the intro of Hot for Teacher. But the rest of the song, No No No, is one of the most badass songs of the album. I can't believe people cannot get behind this one and throw out the whole album as terrible. No 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 fucking rules. And some of the other songs of this album need more attention. For some reason, they only play Crazy Crazy Nights, which is one of the weaker songs in the album. I kind of like it because it's rockin' and cheesy and synthy and whatnot. But you're telling me that that's the only song worth playing off this album, Paul? What the fuck? You also have Good Girl Gone Bad and Thief in the Night, which is one of the most awesome songs they've ever done in the 80s. So badass and underrated. Fantastic way to end the album.
Like a thief in the night, she breaks into his heart. Ooh, like a thief in the night, she never leaves her mind.
And you know what? Another great thing about Crazy Nights that is objectively good about it is you have to admit the vocal performances from Gene and especially Paul are some of their best vocal performances ever. I think Paul's best singing is probably on the song I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, which is probably my favorite song on the album. It's cheesy, it's AOR-ish, it's really melodic, but goddamn, that chorus is really good. Now, around this time, Kiss also released a compilation album by the name of Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. And this had some redone versions of songs, like they had Love Gun without the singing over the guitar solo. That version's pretty badass. They also had some other weird versions of songs. But this compilation is notorious for having the two most hilariously bad Kiss songs ever on them, which are just complete retreads of All Night. And both of them are, although hilariously cringy, I actually kind of enjoy them for how catchy they are. These two songs and their accompanying music videos are the epitome of 80s fucking cheese. You have the songs You Make Me Rock Hard, and my favorite of the two, Let's Put the X in Sex, Love's Like a Muscle Baby, and You Make Me Wanna Flex. what's funny is for the tour for Crazy Nights, they had Anthrax open for them, which is weird because Anthrax was becoming more dark and heavy, and Kiss was becoming more polished and clean, but the backlash was so high from this album that they had to quickly throw shit together, like, fuck, we gotta not piss off the fans again and have another Elder debacle, which ruins our next album. So they threw together an album that they thought would save them, a more rockin' album, but one that I gotta finally say, I fucking hate it. A Kiss album that I can't even defend. We have Hot in the Shade.
Gene and Paul, that what do you do? Where do you go after 60,000 women are screaming and wanting to pull their clothes off and run up on stage and do whatever
You
with
load
you?
you load the bus up with the best 30. And
What do you mean, where do you go? You mean, what does it all mean? Is it one of those?
Well, what do you do after that? I mean, what can you do?
You rest. I mean, what do you do once you know, when you're having fun? It's like you're in the middle of a party and somebody walks up to you and says, you're having a ball. What are you going to do later? I don't know, you
don't care.
You kind of take it as it comes, so to speak.
Uh-huh. So to speak.
Hot in the fucking Shade. Boy, oh boy. I mean, look at the album cover. It's like Power Slave, but Jew metal. What the fuck is this? Come on, you throw fucking sunglasses on the Sphinx. It's just everything about the album is Jewish in the metaphorical sense. Everything is thrown together. Everything is totally just put something out for money and whatnot. But nothing is thought out on this album at all. It's all throwaway. It literally seems like they took a bunch of throwaway songs over the years that were obviously not good enough and threw it all fucking together on this album. And 15 songs? 15? You really think that was gonna save you? Jesus fucking Christ, do 9 songs. It would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been this fucking bad. We're talking more than even 10 of the songs are complete and utter trash on this album. The only redeemable songs on here are the first one, Rise to It, which is awesome. I gotta admit, I love that song. It was so deceiving when I heard this album. I was like, yes, rise to it. You gotta rise to the occasion. You gotta rise to it. This song is gonna be an epic beginning to an overly long album that's gonna still kick your ass. A song that has the music video of them putting the makeup on at the beginning for some fucking reason. Makes no sense because they don't even wear makeup for the rest of the video. So I don't know what the fuck they were trying to go for with that. But then the rest of it, I mean, Betrayed, the second song, what a perfect title for the song and the rest of the album, because you're just betrayed from that point on. The rest of it is absolute filler trash until we get to the last 2 tracks where you have a song that is sung by the prolific Eric Carr, Little Caesar. Finally, he gets a vocal debut on an album, and it is a killer song. Maybe it's not even that good because I'm just like, finally something fucking different, not filler trash. But on this album, it's a fucking masterpiece. It's the Mona Lisa on this goddamn album. And then you have Boomerang, which is a pretty cool ending to the album. But even then, it's like Boomerang kicks ass. It's like speed metal-y. But if you were to compare it to songs like the past couple albums, except Crazy Nights, it's not even that amazing. So Hot in the Shade was going to be hot, it was going to be on fire, it was going to be baked. But because it was hot in the shade, it was half-baked. Unfinished, trash, filler, throw it in the garbage can. So although people thought Hot in the Shade was a mistake, it should have been aborted, because it was a mistake. It should have been fucking aborted. It's half-baked. And if it was baked at a shitty Easy Bake Oven that tastes like fucking carpet. But for the tour for this album, they were trying so hard to just milk the money from the fans and bring them back. Although it was an awesome tour and it had an amazing set list, it really seemed like they were just doing everything they could to hold on to dear life to this band by bringing back all the classics like Parasite. They're like, please come back! But usually when you push a band into a corner, especially a band like Kiss into a corner, they will finally deliver. They did in the past with Creatures, but they're going to do it again. But before we get there, we have to talk about a few important things before we hit Revenge. They were trying to get all the cards together in this, but they had a big issue going into the album, which may have actually caused some inspiration to make some dark, awesome, wretched music. But the issue is that my buddy, my boy, my favorite, Eric Carr, was having issues at this time, fatal issues. He was diagnosed with cancer, was becoming extremely sick. But what's weird is Paul Stanley was saying all this shit about how he was on his deathbed and he was being all distant with us. It's like, motherfucker, what are you talking about? But he was able to sneak out of the hospital to record the music video with them for God Gave Rock and Roll to You, but he pretty much was not able to play on the entire next album. They had to get a guy by the name of Eric Singer, which would replace him from that point on. But Eric Carr does play on one track, which is a song that they recorded way back in '81, a little instrumental, cool song called Car Jam. But the only thing they did with him other than that for this album is they had him in the music video for God Gave Rock and Roll to You. But then after that, they pretty much threw him under the bus and didn't give a shit about him. They fired him from the band on his deathbed. And then Paul was saying all this weird shit about how he wouldn't talk to us and blah, 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 blah. That's why we never showed up to visit him. What the fuck is wrong with you, Paul? Not only did they fire him, but you have to take into account that because they fired him, he didn't have insurance to pay for his medical bills and shit, so he wasn't even able to survive it no matter what, so they pretty much fucked him. Maybe he would have had a chance, but they fucked him over.
Well, I tell you something, he may look like a little boy, but he's built like a man.
Kiss drummer Eric Carr died of cancer at age 41 in a New York hospital. Last May, Carr was diagnosed with a heart tumor, which ultimately spread to his lungs. His last public appearance was at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards in September. 2 days later, Carr suffered a brain hemorrhage and had been hospitalized ever since.
But his soul lived on to this album. Revenge is totally Eric Carr. Even though he's not on the album, every single time I think of Revenge, I think this is Eric Carr's soul, his blood, sweat, and tears and everything on this album. And they got everyone to help make it awesome. They got Bob Ezrin to produce it, making it sound slick and disgusting and badass and heavy. And they also got the ridiculous motherfucker Vinnie Vincent to come in and help write a bunch of the songs, most notably the first song. Fuck it, let's get into it. Revenge.
Where are we now? We're celebrating the release of our new album, Revenge, which people seem to like an awful lot, even critics.
How did you find the title? Did you discuss it a lot? Or?
Paul actually thought of the title.
It's just a good title. You know, it says, you know, it is our revenge. If anyone thought we couldn't do a great album, if anybody thought that we were living on the past, if the best was behind us, then you put out a great album, and that's Revenge.
Unholy. Right when everyone heard that song, interest grew in the band once again, just like Creatures in the Night. And everyone was drawn into this badass Gene opening song that's slow and sludgy and fucking just dark and evil. It's like the demon character was reborn. That's why you're feeling so And then even the cheesy songs on here are really badass, and production-wise sound pretty heavy and rockin'. Take It Off, which is a Paul Stanley song totally about strippers and shit, but maybe they're gay strippers because Paul Stanley is pretty questionable with his sexuality.
As long as I got this face, girls, you got a place to sit.
Yeah, some awesome Gene songs like Spit and Domino, which everyone hates for some reason. I don't fucking get it. It's basically a ZZ Top song, but I mean, come on, you're gonna sit here and say ZZ Top sucks? Get the fuck out of here. Then you have the song, of course, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, another song that everyone hates for some reason. And, you know, a lot of people really don't like this one, but then a lot of people really like it. It's very divisive, and I don't get it. God Gave Rock and Roll to You is an amazing, beautiful tribute that sounds kind of like something that they would have done in the 70s. I love how Paul and Gene switch back and back on vocals, but you know what? I think what would have really made this song special is if they had all four of them, including Eric, although he was on his deathbed, because he was still alive during this time. Maybe have him do a line or two or something. It would have made it sound even more special, and the song was dedicated to Eric.
God gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to everyone.
But we have the two best motherfucking songs on the album back to back. One of them sung by Gene, one of them sung by Paul. The best song on the album from Paul is a ripping, dark song, with Paul doing all these overdubbed, interweaving vocals on the song Heart of Chrome. And then my favorite Gene song, one that's dark, just like Unholy, but even more bass. The riffs are better, and the chorus is godly. Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not. I know it all wrong. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not. I know what I need. Thou shalt not.
Although there's a ballad or two in here, I like those ballads, but to me, the lone stinker, I can't defend this shit. I just wanna.
I got a body built for sin and an appetite for passion.
Oddly enough, the tour did fucking horribly. They were losing so much money they had to play conventions and hotels and everything they could to scrape up as much money and shekels as they could. So then around this time, Kiss decided for some reason to do a part 3 in the Live Alive series, which makes no sense because the original lineup isn't there. I thought they weren't about repeating the past. Anyways, they made Alive 3. So here's the thing about Alive 3, man. It's not bad. It honestly isn't. I know a lot of people hate it. It's whatever. The problem is that it's just useless. It really is. Now, what made the other live albums cool is that they dedicated the live album only to songs of the era before it. Right before it, meaning Kiss Alive 2 was only the songs after Kiss Alive 1 at that point. But this is kind of pointless considering that a large portion of this live album are actually songs that already appeared on Alive 1 and Alive 2. If anything, they should have done this live album while Eric Carr was alive so you can actually have the, 80s drummer play some of the 80s songs, but this honestly just feels like a live album for the Revenge Tour, not the Alive 3. It doesn't feel like it encompasses that whole era. Another issue with it is that a lot of fans speculate that the entire thing was overdubbed because the band did admit that the song I Was Made for Loving You, the live version on the Live 3, was actually recorded in soundcheck and then overdubbed with live sound. So a lot of other people are like, yeah, and maybe the whole thing's kind of like that. But just like many parts of Alive 2, it's kind of up in the air. Some of it was recorded in the studio. Some of it was, actually recorded live, but it's still very confusing when it was actually recorded and where it was actually recorded. The weirdest thing about this live album, though, is that it ends with the Star Spangled Banner for some fucking reason. I mean, I'm not against the Star Spangled Banner, but that's really bizarre. All in all, it's just a pointless live album, honestly. If you're going to have a live album, then call it Kiss Revenge Live or something like that, but this is a disappointing threequel. But it doesn't quite eat hot poop. So Kiss did what they do when they always have no idea what they're supposed to do and they're losing all this money. They're like, fuck it, we'll follow the trend. Before they followed a good trend, which was metal, now they're going to follow arguably kind of a not good trend, which was grunge. Something that really doesn't fit with the Kiss sound. They recorded an album called Carnival of Souls, but they ended up shelving it, kind of like what the Beatles did with Let It Be, but then released it years later when everyone was asking for it and all this shit. There was demos and bootlegs and all this shit of what they were recording, so eventually they kind of had to release it. We'll talk about why they had to shelve it a little bit later, but let's pretend like Carnival of Souls was released around when they recorded it. And let's talk about it. Carnival of Souls, their grunge album.
Usual gift you've ever received?
Most unusual gift. The baby.
Yeah, the imaginary baby. We get so many gifts all the time that it's hard to say what the best is. You know, obviously you can always make up stories or tell things about women and rock and roll and partying, but I think the best thing and the biggest gift we've ever gotten is 20 years of doing what we do. And that comes from the people, and that comes from their heart and soul. So that's a little more important than, you know, we can talk about, oh, there's so many women. Any idiot can get a woman when they're on tour, but this is a lot more important and a lot more heartfelt than the bragging about the other stuff.
Would you cut? Hold on 1 second. Cut this off for a second. Would you stop cutting me down in front of the camera? I didn't go for that shit.
Go on.
I don't know, all of a sudden, like whatever I say, all of a sudden, don't listen to this idiot.
Now, although I'm not the biggest fan of grunge, I really do appreciate this album for what it is. It's one of my least favorites for sure. I don't really listen to it much, but I do enjoy it. It has some really good songs on it for what it is. Rain sounds like an Alice in Chains song. Paul sounds completely out of place, but overall it's still a good song. Childhood's End's awesome. Master and Slave is badass. Master and Slave has this awesome bass riff to it. My issue with the song is that it should obviously have Gene on vocals, not Paul. Kind of seems out of place. A lot of these songs are good, I confess, but to me, the big standout is the opening track, Hate. Ow. I had a hiccup burp. You get Gene on vocals, it's kind of like in the same vein as Unholy. It's sludgy and badass. I really do love everything about this song, Hate. I just wish the album was more like that, but a lot of the album is actually kind of boring.
Hey, it's what I am. It's underneath this heart that beats the heart of man.
So to me, it's ultimately okay. I do enjoy it a bit for what it is. I would enjoy it more if I was kind of a grunge fan. But before they released this album, of course, you started having some issues which made them throw it under the rug. To increase interest in the band, they were, of course, following the trend, so Kiss did an unplugged video. They decided to bring back the classics, Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley for a couple songs. But because this happened, it was like the shot heard around the world, and everyone was screaming reunion, reunion, reunion. The band was starving. So they, of course, like, fuck it, we have to somehow make the reunion happen or else we're done for. And Paul and Gene finally realized that although they tried beating around the bush and acting like Ace and Peter were useless and they weren't Kiss, they realized they could not come back and live as a true Kiss band without those two in the band. So they pretty much sacked Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer, and Eric Singer even bashed Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons at the time, which is funny because, you know, now he's with the band now and defends all their stupid actions. But we know how you really think, Eric Singer, because you said it back in the day. But what's sad about this whole reunion thing is that it wasn't really a reunion. It's almost like a fake reunion. Although they would do a long, awesome tour with all four members of the classic lineup, they would record an album that was advertised as the classic lineup, but didn't have the classic lineup. Eric Singer and a couple other people that were doing drum stuff, and then you also had Tommy Thayer and Bruce and Bob Kulick. It was a mess, and they even had other fucking people. It's like they really could not just throw their differences aside and record a classic lineup album, but they advertised it as so let's talk about Psycho Circus. Is it all it's cracked up to be?
The fact of the matter is, there are 4 of you fellas and 1 of this little lady here. And I draw the line at the lot of you having sex with her.
Don't worry. All 4 of us aren't having sex with her.
Well, thank God for that.
It's Gene's turn tonight.
Oh, no. No, this date is canceled.
Daddy, no!
Don't you daddy me! Don't you daddy me! You march right upstairs and take off that prom dress now. Take it off.
We'll help. All right.
Hey, you watch it. You watch your mouth,
Daddy,
lady.
don't yell at Kiss.
What's going on down here? Hello, Kiss.
Emma. It's been a long time.
Mom, you know these guys?
Oh, well, you can say that I swallowed a few swords in my day.
You guys slept with my mom? My mom had sex with Kiss. Now my daughter's gonna have sex with Kiss.
Well, what says we make it a hat trick? You got room for one more?
There's always room for the ladies. Let's go.
Oh, Mom, you're the best.
We'll see.
Although I fucking hate everything about this album, history-wise, and the fact that they tried to advertise Psycho Circus as the reunion album when in all reality, all four of them only play on one song, which is the only song they allowed Ace Frehley to write on the album. He wrote a couple other ones, but they threw them out for some fucking reason, and they were all badass, so what the fuck you doing? So they only all play on one song, but they do vocals all together on another song. But ultimately, it's just Paul, Gene, and some other fucks for all the rest of the album. So that pisses me off, but honestly, I really love this album. The only song I don't like is We Are One, because it annoys me to no fucking end during the chorus. But damn, Psycho Circus rules. And the song Within, which is doomy and dark, awesome for Gene. But what's funny is it's actually like a B-side from Carnival of Souls, which you'd think would suck, because some of the songs in there are kind of boring, but they really reworked it and made it awesome. And then I Pledge Allegiance to State of Rock and Roll is good. Raise Your Glasses rules. I Finally Found My Way. Dreamin', which has amazing vocals from Paul Stanley. Journey of 1,000 Years. All these songs are good, but everyone mostly cares about the two songs. The one song that everyone plays on, the Ace song that he does vocals on, Into the Void, which just rules. It's awesome to finally hear another kick-ass Ace song. But they should have let him write more songs in the album. What the fuck? And then you had the one song that they all sing on, which is actually my favorite song on the album, You Wanted the Best. All their vocals trading off, which I think they should have done on God Gave Rock and Roll to You with that lineup. But here it works exactly how I wanted it to. Everyone's vocals completely complement each other. And I love how they all sing together in the chorus. It just sounds awesome. And for a little bit you can close your eyes and pretend that Kiss are being more awesome than they ever were before. One of the coolest songs they've ever done.
You wanted the best. Yeah, you got it. And you got the best. All right. Yeah.
But it's so stupid. All this little petty drama and shit. And Ace and Peter were just kind of like, who the fuck are these guys? Or why are we not doing like a real reunion? And Paul and Gene just simply stated, no one will notice or care. Which is so stupid. That's like completely throwing your fan base under the bus, saying that our fans are too dumb, that if we just put your faces on the cover, they'll fall for it. You guys that just sit there and defend Gene and Paul's actions all day, how can you defend that? They're basically saying you guys are stupid. That one line right there is completely indefensible. I don't hate Paul and Gene, no matter what you guys are probably thinking right now, saying you're just a hater and blah blah blah. But we need to be honest with ourselves and admit that these people are not fucking angels, and that what they did with the classic lineup on this album is fucked up. It should have been a real reunion. Sure, Gene and Paul can do whatever they want. It's their band, and Peter and Ace are junkies or whatnot. But we, all of us, deep down wanted a real reunion. And according to everyone, it was Paul and Gene's fault for it not happening. But Ace and Peter were sober at this time. The only reason they weren't on the album is because Paul and Gene kicked off some of Ace's songs he wrote, and because they wanted to record stuff and they were just having other guys record it instead. They clearly wanted to because they had the balls to ask Paul and Gene, why aren't we recording? And they said, we have these other guys doing it. So it clearly means they actually were devoted enough to wanting to fucking do it. So the tour they did for Psycho Circus was super long. They went out for 4 years, but it was an awesome tour. They fought all the time, but they put their differences aside and they delivered the Kiss we wanted. I just don't know why they couldn't do it for the album. I mean, if you want to argue that they're junkies and they're fighting, then why did they keep them for 4 years to tour? It's much fucking harder to tour for guys for 4 fucking years than it is to just go in and write an album. Come on. But then they had the whole bullshit farewell tour, which this shit always pisses me off. But this is their final tour, it's their final tour. What the fuck? It wasn't. The only reason they called it the final tour, the farewell tour, and to all you Paul and Gene ass suckers that are going to say, oh, they're fucking great, fantastic guys. The only reason they called it a farewell tour was to maximize the profits out of the fans. You have to admit that that's fucked up. Lying that it's a farewell tour just to maximize the profits. It's not like they did the farewell tour and then like 10 years or so later, then they continued or something like that. No, they literally continued like immediately after the farewell tour. They clearly didn't want to stop. And then towards the end of the farewell tour, they were going to do a leg of the tour where they had Aerosmith pretty much be the closing band and Kiss be the opening band. But Ace thought that was stupid because Kiss would always, you know, have Aerosmith open for them. So he thought that was fucked up and he left. Surprisingly, he left before Peter. And according to Peter, at this time, they weren't paying Peter's fair share. They were claiming that they were paying him and Ace the same amount of money, but then Ace revealed to him that he was making more money than Peter was, so that was kind of fucked up.
We had the same lawyer, talk about stupid. We had the same manager. Again, I trusted these two guys. I really did. I trusted Ace because you're right, he did pull back me and say, we got to do this together. But again, as the train got faster and the money got bigger and the power got bigger, Ace got crazier. And Ace's choice of women was crazier. And he got crazier. And that's why, in a way, I realize now, even though that happened, that, yeah, he did come out at least and tell me, he wound up telling me.
Yeah,
to my
that's
face.
interesting for him to just. He just decided one day. Did you ask him, or he just offered that?
No,
to
he
you?
called my room.
So it was weighing on him, obviously.
Yeah, he called my room. His bodyguard, whoever, called my room and brought me up there. And he said, I just can't live with myself no more. I can't take this no more. I watch you every night smiling at me, hug me. You're always there for me. And I've been really making a lot more money.
But say what you will about him, he still stayed with the band trying to make it work. Despite his arms hurting really bad and his old age playing all these fucking shows. But then they did another tour after the farewell tour, which is fucked up. Now they have Tommy Thayer, the fake Ace, in the Ace makeup, which he apparently sold off to him, or actually, as Ace claimed, leased it to him, which means he'll apparently get the makeup back, hopefully. But on this tour after the farewell tour, Peter even had to leave because he just couldn't take the rigorous touring anymore, and he thought it was kind of fucked up that they were doing touring after the farewell tour. So now they needed a drummer, so they got Eric Singer, and they convinced Peter Criss to sell off his cat makeup as well. So instead of having this new guy on guitar, Tommy Thayer, and Eric Singer back on drums, instead of having them have their own unique makeup, they had them wear the spaceman makeup and the cat makeup. Now, this brings us to Scab Kiss. Now, a lot of Kiss fans hate Scab Kiss, and a lot of Kiss fans love Scab Kiss. What I really cannot stand, though, is the fact that the people that love Scab Kiss almost 100% of the time do not understand why people don't like Scab Kiss. They always use these horrible straw man arguments of saying you don't like Scab Kiss because you don't like Gene and Paul, which is never true. They always say you just think Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer suck as musicians. We think they're good musicians. They think, oh, you just hate them because you're a hater and you hate Kiss and you're not a real fan. You really think that's a real argument? People that have been fucking a Kiss fan since they were like 5 years old, buying all the fucking stupid toys and lunchboxes, maybe that were a bigger Kiss fan and been into the band longer than you, that think it's morally wrong for them to pretend to be other people is somehow making them less of a fan than you because you can agree with everything more than Gene and Paul say? Come on. Because you're a Zombie fan does not make you the world's best fan. Who the fuck cares? Everyone that's a fan of a band are as equal as a fan as every other fan of the band, okay? No one is more superior as a fan. Stop fucking acting like you're on some gigantic high horse because you can suck Paul's dick the best, okay?
Michael Brandvold does.
The reason we don't like Scab Kiss, and the reason we call it Scab Kiss, is because a scab is a sports term where an athlete will replace another athlete kind of off the cuff quickly and will mimic exactly everything that last player did to kind of keep the momentum of everyone thinking, oh, that person's kind of still there because he's pretty much cloning that person. Although Tommy and Eric don't say they're being Ace and Peter, and everyone in the band tries to say that they're not being Ace and Peter, think about what they said to Ace and Peter during Psycho Circus. The fans won't know or care. The fans won't know or care. Well, you know what? You can say all you want, Scab Kiss defenders, that I can tell the difference. Everyone can tell the difference. You know how many fucking people I've met that have wore new shirts of Kiss that they put out all the fucking time with the Scab Kiss members on it, and I tell them, hey, that's not Ace Frehley and Peter Criss on there. Almost 90% of the time, they don't know that. And they're big Kiss fans. And on those shirts, their faces are so small, it doesn't seem very fucking obvious. You're really telling me that they're not trying to advertise it as if Peter and Ace aren't still there? If they weren't trying to do that, then they would have given them different makeup. They even said back in the day that they felt wrong continuing with the makeup that even had different people's makeup, you know, the Anunnaki Warrior and the Fox. They thought it was wrong because they felt the makeup belonged to the original lineup.
15 years ago, you decided to take your makeup off. Why?
Well, I left the band with my makeup on.
Peter left in 80, I left in 83, and then
with
these
your
guys,
makeup on.
then him and Paul and two other guys decided to take it off.
Yeah, and I think it was time for that. Like
Actually, it was the right thing to do because without Ace and Peter, anybody else wearing the makeup was diluted.
We had just come back from doing South America and playing to the largest crowds we'd ever played in makeup. We played 200,000 people in Brazil and a huge stadium tour. And at that point, we had to look at each other because it really wasn't the original lineup anymore. And we didn't feel honest or comfortable with the makeup anymore because in hindsight, the makeup really belonged to the original lineup in the sense that we created it and it should only be worn by us.
Yet they're being complete backpedaling dipshits with this. They have different people wearing the makeup of the original lineup, which is even worse than what they were doing before. And what they were doing before wasn't even that bad, yet they got offended by that and had to take the makeup off. So you're telling me that this is somehow okay morally? That makes them giant hypocrites, and it makes you a giant hypocrite for defending it. If you're going to suck Paul Stanley's dick now, suck his dick back then, because guess what? Back then, he says the makeup belonged to the original Kiss lineup. And guess what? They're wearing the identical makeups to the original Kiss lineup. So, which Paul is wrong?
I felt, you know, to me, it's a cover band. It's not Kiss. You know, it's really just not. You got, you know, nothing like you said. I think Eric's a great guy. I think he's a good drummer. But as far as Tommy goes, I see a guy who used to order my food for after my concert for what I want to eat when I'm done playing, who, as far as I'm concerned, paid no dues, paid nothing compared to what we paid throughout our career, as far as what Ace and I and Gene and Paul went through with the ridicule and the no airplay, and you know, got thrown off the shows and eventually almost got thrown off the label. You know, I mean, no one liked us back in the day. We really paid our dues to who we were today and who we are today. This guy is now my road manager, ordering my plate of spaghetti after a concert. Next minute, I'm looking over and he's wearing literally Icon's boots. You know, it ain't Ace. And I'm looking over every night, looking at this guy waving a guitar around, playing Ace's leads, Ace's licks, acting like Ace, becoming Ace, being Ace. You know, be careful what you wish for. You might get it. He always wanted to be him. Well, now he's him. And to pay money to go back and take a picture with two imposters and two originals is wrong. And I don't care what I get for this or what comes back at me. I'm talking from my heart. It's just not right for my fans. The plug should have been pulled on the reunion. I remember Doc McGee telling me when I first met him, I will not handle this band unless it's Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, in makeup, in boots, in full makeup, full war paint. He's still handling the band. The band now has 2 imposters, 2 originals, and they're still playing.
Mm-hmm. So as if I wasn't pissing off all the people just sucking Paul and Gene's ass enough at this point, I gotta piss you off even more. Paul's voice at this time was really going to shit. He couldn't sing any of the demanding songs anymore. I mean, you could say all day that his voice sounds good, and then you show those people that say that bad videos of Paul Stanley nowadays, which are all of them, and then they'll just say, oh, it's because he's old. You know what they should do? They should just have Gene sing most of these songs, or just have only Gene's songs. I don't think the fans would get pissed off at that, because all of Gene's songs, especially from the 70s, were awesome. So if they did an entire set list of that, you would still get like pretty much all the big hits, like Rock and Roll Night Party Every Day. That was Gene. So that's like the only essential song you have to hit, and then just all of his songs, God of Thunder and whatnot. He could do Detroit Rock City, and his voice is still good though. So although I'm shitting on Paul, I'm gonna sit here and defend Gene, because Gene, even though he has his crazy fucking antics, he just does ridiculous stuff nowadays, hawking whatever dumb fucking vault and pissing off people and fans, and maybe even being nice to some fans and burying his face in whatever chick's chest. Whatever he does, whatever funny, shitty, crazy antics he does, I will sit here and say that his voice still sounds pretty damn cool. Okay, now for Kiss Symphony. Now, Kiss Symphony, I actually love Kiss Symphony. I also love the Metallica live concert where they play with the Symphony S&M. My only big issue with Kiss Symphony is, number one, there's actually 2 issues. Now, my 2 big issues with Kiss Symphony, though, is number one, Ace is not on this. This is one of those rare times when it was actually Tammy Gayer on guitar and Peter Criss, which, you know, was very rare at the time to have the 2 of them. So Peter does a good job. Obviously, Tommy does a good job. I'll admit it, he does decent. In fact, honestly, if Ace was there, it may have sounded sloppy. But it's just weird seeing him up there, man. It doesn't feel like a real Kiss alive, you know what I mean? Now, another issue I have is, of the 3 acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 of this live album, Act 1 doesn't have the symphony orchestra for some fucking reason. And then the other 2 acts do. I don't know what the hell the point of that was. Why not just do, you know, the whole thing? But anyways, they picked the perfect songs. I know a lot of people hate this live album, but I don't give a fuck. I like it. I actually think some of these songs sound better than they ever have. In fact, I think the very best version of God of Thunder is on this album. I don't know, they just change some of the notes up when the guitars and drums come in. They just kind of play off the cuff in this cool, creative way. They make it sound more energetic, and then this, obviously, Symphony makes it sound super fucking epic, as it should sound. They play a lot of songs from the Destroyer album on this, including that wretched, horrible Great Expectations. Someone, please tell me that someone in this band had a brain aneurysm, and that was the reason why they put this horrible song on this awesome live album. Now, another interesting fact is that many of the, if not all of the people in the symphony orchestra that played with them actually put on Kiss makeup while playing. That was pretty cool. And another interesting thing is that they actually bring back frickin' Shandy. That's right, the classic ballad from Unmasked, the album that people just kind of want to ignore. But they brought it back, and everyone went wild when they did it, and it sounded great. And the biggest reason why it sounded great, This is Paul Stanley still sounding really good. And it's sad to think that just a couple years later, Paul Stanley would completely lose his voice. I'm not trying to be a hater that says, oh, Paul Stanley sucks, or I hate everything now because it's new. Look, you can't even tell me 10 traditional metal bands in the 2000s, okay? If I asked you who's Visigoth, you would say, I don't know, that gay medieval shit, okay? I am up to date, you're old, you're outdated, you need a new processor. Now here's the deal, Paul Stanley, as said before, was one of the absolute greatest singers of all time. Then, he got vocal surgery because he wanted to be better than ever. I'm pompous at my old age and must remain better than already sounding great. So then he proceeded to completely, permanently fucking ruin one of the best sounding voices of all time. Who's to blame for this? No one but Paul Stanley. Now there's several other Kiss live albums, like, you know, Kiss Millennium concerts, blah 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 blah. I'm too lazy to talk about that shit. In fact, I shouldn't even be talking about live albums to begin with. What's the point? But I guess there's some interesting history behind it, but whatever. I don't give a fuck enough. I shouldn't have even talked about Kiss Live 3, that fucking boring, pointless album. But that brings us to the next album, one that pretty much has Paul Stanley grabbing to dear life on auto-tune. And all you rock stars bitch and say these generic comments like, you don't like real rock, you Justin Bieber fan. You just like auto-tune garbage. Well, are you going to acknowledge the fact that Paul Stanley uses auto-tune on this album? Are you going to say, well, it's okay because it's Paul Stanley? Are you a hypocrite? Because I think you are. But anyways, although I'm bashing Scab Kiss, although I'm saying Paul's voice sucks, surprisingly, Kiss continued making albums. I actually like 2 more. And then Gene says that they don't really want to do any more albums because he hates the record labels and the whole music scene sucks now. Rock's dead and everything. But they want to do 2 more albums. But those 2 albums I actually really like. So let's hit with the first one, Sonic Boom.
I have a question to ask you.
What?
What? Kiss is K-I-S-S. This does not spell kiss. Gustavo.
Yeah, I
a
mean,
big mistake.
honestly, I picked this t-shirt especially to do the interview with you guys. I mean, it's not cool to wear a Kiss t-shirt doing a Kiss interview.
1 second.
It's very
cool. Por favor.
¿Qué pasó?
I got a Kiss t-shirt in our...
Oh.
That's not gonna, I don't want to wear an Iron Maiden t-shirt.
He told me it'd be no problem.
Iron Maiden interview and we wear Kiss t-shirts. Is that
I
okay?
mean, that'd be cool.
No, you don't understand.
But I love a t-shirt. If you have one,
Yeah,
I'll wear it.
Or you can put it on backwards. Let's see the back.
That's what I did.
Yeah, you can put it on backwards.
He's gonna get
to get a free
We're gonna get
Kiss
you.
t-shirt.
That's how you get. Gustavo's very smart.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. How do I get a Kiss t-shirt for free?
What's the name of this
You show up
TV
with the
show?
wrong t-shirt.
Do me a favor.
Okay.
Put your arms through the t-shirt. Put the t-shirt on backwards. You don't have to take it off.
I'll do that. I mean,
Okay.
if you don't
We'll
want
help
me
you.
to wear this t-shirt.
We took that band out on their first tour.
I know.
Yeah. And AC/DC and everybody else. But you look so much
better?
better. Much better.
Okay, let's go.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well dressed.
The album cover is kind of like a copy of Rock and Roll Over, but like less cool. But the rest of the album is pretty awesome. You have Modern Day Delilah, which is like one of my favorite Kiss songs ever. And then you have awesome songs like Stand, which is really catchy. And you have All for the Glory, which features Eric Singer on vocals. He does a really good job, and it's a damn catchy song. And then you have Dangerous, which is kind of cringy, but I'm not going to lie. I can get down with this song. It's pretty funny and fun. When the Lightning Strikes, one of my favorite songs on here with Tommy Thayer on vocals. It kind of sounds like an Ace song, so... I mean, I guess he kind of delivered the feel of Ace, but I'd rather he did his own thing and stop pretending to be Ace Frehley.
When lightning strikes, a howl in the rain and thunder. A fiery night, a flash of light electrifies my heart and my soul.
But I gotta say, there's one nitpick I got about this album that's really fucking annoying, other than the ear rape production that's completely brick-walled, is the fact that the whole album is just littered with the band saying, yeah! at like every corner they can get. It kind of gets irritating at some points, but it's so funny and goofy that it's like a trademark of this album. You know, when you put on Sonic Boom, you're just going to hear like a parody of Kiss, but it's going to be fun and it's going to be funny. You're going to hear yeah every single second. And we love rock, yeah! You know, it's every second is going to be that. And the song Say Yeah at the very end, literally the entire song is just yeah over and over and over and over again, but it's funny as fuck and I love it.
You say yeah, 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 yeah. Say
And the whole album, and even the next one, are a complete tribute to those early days of Kiss. So if you only like that type of Kiss, and if you put away the politics of it and only give a shit about the music, which you should, always only give a shit about the music when listening to it, you're probably going to like this album. But let's move on to the last Kiss album, Monster, one that they were really hyping up. They were saying how awesome it was, and ooh, it's on Analog and whatnot, but it wasn't the best thing ever. It's a good album, and it's a good finale, but it is still a monster of an album.
You're being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Or indicted.
Indicted?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is fluff. It's a farce. It's like an Addams Family bar mitzvah. I mean, I'm going to go, but let's not kid ourselves, you know. That's not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is walking the streets.
You don't see it as an honor?
I see it as dubious. We are the bitter pill that they ultimately had to swallow because they don't like us. And the only reason they're inducting us is because they begin to look foolish at some point.
Now, what makes Monster awesome and arguably better than the last one is the fact that Gene is featured a lot more, and you have some of Gene's most awesome fucking songs. You have really awesome heavy Gene songs. Wall of Sound, The Devil Is Me. His voice just sounds so damn good on this album. But my favorite song from him on this album is the rockin' catchy song Back to the Stone Age. My God, Gene, you're on fire on this album. Paul, on the other hand, he has some good songs in here like Hell or Hallelujah and whatnot, but his voice is sounding even worse than on the last one. Come on, Paul, just let Gene take over. It's okay. We love Gene enough where he can just do the whole album with maybe Eric and Tommy doing some more vocals here and there, because although I'm not the biggest fan of them stealing the makeup, I still like Tommy and Eric.
It would be an honor if Kiss would continue without any of the original members, because when we say that the team is more important than any member, we're talking about any member. We're talking about that we're creating something that is much bigger than the band is. We're creating a state of mind, a way of delivering a show, a way of reminding people that they're in control. This is not about us doing anybody a favor when we get on stage. The audience does us a favor by showing up. So whether we're here or not, there will be a Kiss, and Kiss will move forward.
So that's it for Kiss. Had to do this bitch in 2 fucking parts, 2 long parts. We got it all out of the way, everything except for other solo albums, but that shit would take years to finish. But all the essential stuff, I know you're all bitching at me in the comments, but let's be honest here. I loved almost every Kiss album that I talked about. Like, only 2 of them I didn't like, right? So you're going to sit here and say I'm a fake fan because I personally think it's morally wrong for them to wear the same makeup. I'm being polite here with it, okay? I understand why you guys like it. I say that there's nothing wrong with liking this stuff. I liked Monster. I liked Sonic Boom. But I personally don't agree with the politics of it. And that's okay to have that opinion. And guess what? It's okay for you to agree with it. I'm extending an olive branch to you people out there. There's Kiss fans that don't like Scab Kiss, and the Kiss fans that really stand behind it really need to come to an understanding. I feel like I have fully explained why us non-Scab Kiss fans don't like it, but you people that do like it need to explain to us why you do it in a nice manner that's not ridiculous, calling us haters, so we can come to an agreement. But man, Gene and Paul trying to act like all the people that don't like Scab Kiss are haters and whatnot, it's not helping. Don't listen to them. Listen to the other Kiss fans and come to an understanding, because at the end of the day, we are one. You know, that one song I fucking hate off Psycho Circus doesn't matter. We are one. We are the Kiss Army.
Subscribe to the Downfall Network.